Hey folks, welcome back to the Workplace Innovator podcast. It's me, your host, Mike P. Excited to welcome back one of my favorite people of all time, my favorite sociologist, and probably my favorite Michigander. She's joining us today from the great state of Michigan, and she is well known in our industry. She really needs no introduction. Everybody say hi to Dr. Tracy Brower. Tracy, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm so delighted to be here and have a conversation. You are my fave. So thank you so much.
You do a lot of podcasts. That means a lot because you're just saying that. We're all just so complimentary. It's called glazing now, I've heard, from the Amy Poehler podcast. I had a friend on who hosts another show, Maureen Roskoski, and she loves Amy Poehler's show, Good Hang. And in the beginning, she always sits there across from one of her celebrity friends and gives this long bio of all the things that they love about each other. They call it glazing. That's what the young kids say. Mm-hmm. But that's not glazing. That's real, real heartfelt, well-earned industry respect from someone, for those that don't know out there watching us now, because this is the first time, Tracy, we've done a video version of the podcast, and I'm very excited about that. But this is the chance to talk to you as VP of, let me get it right, Workplace Insight at Steelcase. You do research, you're an author, you've written a number of books, and that's why we have you back, because every year or two, you've got a new book on the horizon, and this one's coming out very soon. March 10th, everybody. Mark your calendars, check the show notes, find the link to get your copy of Tracy's newest book, Critical Connections: Build Relationships and Harness the Power of Community in Work and Life. Dr. Brower, congrats again.
Thank you.
How's it feel to be a 3.5-time author?
It's awesome. I love it. I always say it's the book that I really wanted to write. I'm so excited about the content. Just really interesting research and implications and pragmatic ways to think about connections and community.
And it's been this theme. We were just chatting briefly before starting this recording that your first book was about work and life balance kind of, and then you got into the COVID pandemic years. You were a guest on this show many times, carrying us through what was this new unknown way of working and connecting, and how do we do it all? And then you were writing at the time a book called Happiness, Finding Your Happiness at Work. Give me the full title.
The Secrets to Happiness at Work.
Hey, have you ever seen that meme? You like secrets? No, you like surprises? Come here. It's a surprise. That little kid. Have you seen that one? Anyway,
I haven't. Anyway.
I always confuse surprises and secrets. The Secrets to Happiness at Work. And then you updated it a year later. And this theme of all the things that go on in our personal lives, our work lives. And as a sociologist, Tracy, you really have an insight into the role that the office plays, but not just there, how we connect in many ways: remote work, hybrid work, understanding how space interacts with the human beings, or the people interact with those spaces. And here you are doing it again and focusing on community and connections, which you've talked about on my show before. And I want to just continue that discussion. So here it is, 2026, the spring. We are 5 years post our last conversation during COVID, our first conversation, but now 6 years post the beginning of that pandemic period. What's different? What's new, or what is not new? Because I'm finding that, as you always say, yes, or this is true and that is true. My favorite workplace paradox idea. We are changed as people, and the world has changed, and our workplace has changed, but a lot of things are the same as well. So with that long setup, what's on your mind, Tracy Brower?
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to a conversation about connection, connection, connection. We have this new data that 50% of people globally are lonely. People feel so disconnected. I think that's sort of not new, but it is new in terms of just the record levels of depression and anxiety. Engagement is at an 11-year low. I mean, people are craving more connections with their colleagues and coworkers. That's new data as well. So I think it's not new that we feel disconnected, and it's new that we're still so disconnected and we're still struggling. People even say they feel like they don't have social skills. They feel like their social skills have declined. So we just really are more healthy when we're connected with each other, both physically and cognitively and emotionally, and it affects even our brain health. So we need each other. And work is a center of gravity, right? Work is a place where we feel seen, and work ends up being a really important place that we make friends or we have colleagues that we can count on. So it's the same and it's not the same, and we really need to focus on it for our health overall.
I agree 100%. And you give such great practical advice in your role at Steelcase. You're out talking with clients. You've shared some great ideas for my audience of facility management and real estate leaders who are part of our IFMA and CoreNet community. That's where you and I are always bumping into each other, and you're speaking and sharing these ideas. Are you seeing any hopeful signs that organizations are taking to heart these things that you're sharing, the importance of reimagining how we approach the workplace? And are you seeing success and stories of people making those changes and leaders really adapting to this new world of work in the workplace?
Yes, I think we are seeing success. I think we hear this negative narrative, right? Like, companies just want people in the office to control them or watch them or whatever. And I see so many more organizations that are just really seeing their role in well-being, not just because when people have higher levels of well-being and connection, they perform better and give more discretionary effort, but because organizations are seeing that they have a role to play in that area. In fact, I just did an article. This is really cool. I found some new research on organizational networks. And when we have greater levels of social capital and we feel more connected, we have more people we can ask for advice. We have more people that we can go to and get information. We have more people we can kind of pull into a project. The more we have that kind of social capital and strong networks within an organization, we feel more committed and we demonstrate more organizational citizenship. Isn't that cool? We follow up, we follow through, we do the right thing for both ourselves and other people. So I think organizations are recognizing that. And I think we're creating the conditions for people to, really feel more connected and have greater levels of well-being. I'm actually really optimistic about what I'm seeing across lots of organizations, right? Learning, healthcare, corporate, nonprofit, small, large, lots of organizations who are wanting to do the right thing.
Oh, that is so good to hear. I am always the one who's out there trying to be the optimistic guy. And it's tough sometimes, especially in this time and this world in which we operate. And this nuanced conversation is something that's so important. That's why I love having you on this show, because you do say, as I do, that it's not an either or. It's not a binary this way or that way, my way or the highway. And you must agree with how I see the world and how I view the workplace and the office. And like you alluded to, the leaders who default to, in frank terms, what's easiest. It's like, if I just mandate something and my team follows, everything will be fine. Well, it's not that easy, and it's never a good outcome if that's your approach. So you need to be more in tune and empathetic and a better communicator, and you need to challenge yourself as a leader to put yourself in the other person's position and give different direction and cast a vision and be that person who inspires different members of your team who approach this whole thing from different angles, different personality types, different roles. We've covered it all before. And I imagine, and I'm hoping that if I pick up a copy of your new book, you'll tell me more about how we can be better at creating these critical connections. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. And I talk as well in the book, and I think this is important, like the proximity and presence have a ton to do with how we create those connections. Like there's really interesting research that there's a spillover effect in performance. When we're sitting within 25 feet of a top performer, our performance increases 15%. Or if we're sitting within 65 feet of other people, there's a measurable knowledge spillover. And that's good for it's good for organizations, clearly, but it's also good for us, right? Like when we do great work, we feel a greater sense of esteem and we feel like we want to keep contributing. When we feel like we're learning, that's one of the primary things that can keep us with an organization and keep us motivated. So when we are creating those conditions for proximity or for presence, in addition to honoring flexibility that people want and, treating people like grown-ups, those are all really, really good for the culture. And that's another one of our both ands, kind of that workplace paradox that you like to talk about. So in the book, we talk about, like what are the elements of how we set up work? How do we give people a sense of purpose? How do we make sure that teams are connected, not just between team members, but between teams across the organization? How do we make friends? How do we sustain friendship over time, even if we have changes in life? And I have some discussion about how much friendship there should be in the work environment, because that's a really interesting point of controversy as well. Like, should you have a BFF? What are the boundaries, right? Maybe it should only be collegial relationships that are purely professional. So I think we can think intentionally about how are we making friends? How are we creating lasting relationships with colleagues?
Oh my, that is so inspiring and so well said, Tracy. And it's so perfect for my audience because they want some of this practical advice and some guidance on how they can communicate to their leadership or to their team the value of what they're trying to achieve as workplace leaders. And again, depending on the role, you have different responsibilities, but this holistic view of the place, the built environment broadly, caring for those physical assets is what we talk about on my podcast, but it's all connected to being sure we create a safe and secure and healthy place for human beings to interact and connect and have these opportunities for building their social capital and then feeling that sense of belonging and purpose and aligning with the mission of their organization and the goals that have been set out before them. And that's what we all want. We all want to contribute, and we want someone to help guide us and lead us there. There's no conflict or no contradiction in the idea that saying, yes, I want freedom, I want choice, I'm an adult. You said it. Let me choose when and where and how best to deliver what I can bring to this team, but give me something. Give me that. I used it with Rex Miller recently. Gandalf. I need get me out of my Shire, get me out of the Hobbit hole and cast a vision and inspire me to be part of something. Say, I need you a part on this journey, this adventure, this hero's journey. And it's not, it's a little corny, but it's not that difficult to say, hey, you're valued. Let me communicate the value of what we're doing here and bring you into this bigger picture. And all these things can be true at once. That's really hard to communicate today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I think is really interesting about our industry, right, is you think about culture, and Edgar Schein was the granddaddy of organizational culture and organizational dynamics and really understanding and articulating those, right? And he talked about an iceberg model of organizational culture. And under the surface of the water are norms and assumptions and behaviors and how things get done around here and what people do when no one's looking, right? Those things are palpable, but they're not visible. But above the surface of the water with that iceberg is place, right? Place is one of the most visible artifacts of culture. So how do we have like a city center or a work cafe where we can be alone together, or we can connect with a colleague, or we can see people across the space who have kind of shown up for the same reasons that we have, even if we don't know them really well? In what ways do neighborhoods bring us together and we can learn together and, hit somebody on the elbow and go, hey, do you have some advice for me? Or what should I do about this one, right? Or we have enclaves where we can really come together and ask for advice or provide mentoring. Those kinds of opportunities, both in neighborhoods or business districts or urban parks or university districts or city centers. If we think about the analogy of cities and communities, we can think about those in our workplaces as well. And there's one other really cool factoid I have to share. So
Great.
there's some research on cities and communities. This isn't on workplace, but it absolutely applies. So when cities and communities have more gathering places, that is places where people gather like parks, park benches, restaurants, coffee shops, yoga studios, community centers, libraries.
Sure.
When cities have more gathering places, people are more likely to report they have friends and less likely to report they don't have friends. And friendship is really critical to us. Having 2 or 3 close friends is highly correlated with health outcomes. And lots of people say, I don't have enough friends today. So gathering places not only help us gather physically, but they help us create real relationships. And so you think about the workplace, right? What's the workplace but a gathering place? We do projects together. We run into each other in the work cafe or the city center. We're gathering around the whiteboard and solving the customer problem, or, working on the new innovation that we're creating. So you think about gathering places, and it's a big deal. There's another piece of research on infrastructure. And when cities make more investment in infrastructure, sidewalks, trains, again, parks, park benches, libraries, places where people and how people connect, when cities make greater investment there, they see greater well-being and happiness on the part of their citizens. So I think there's relevance, right, in terms of how we connect at work. 75% of people make their friends at work. How we create spaces where people can connect, and then the impact on our well-being and our performance organizationally and individually. It's like a really cool logic train, right?
It really is. And it's so important that you are sharing this and all of this research with my audience, because they do have a role to play, and they can have an impact in not just their organization, but in their broader community, in the city in which they operate, in which the, in our nation overall. And this is a global podcast. So humans are, everywhere, and they're all the same in many ways. We have different languages, different cultures in some ways, but people are people. I've always said, as Depeche Mode reminded me. And you really are my go-to sociologist to really help understand, all of these dynamics and how they, combine and integrate, and then putting in practical ways that workplace leaders, whoever's listening and watching us, can really do some of these things. So I know you get informed by many others in your field. You mentioned when it comes to relationships and our circle of connections in the past, you talked about, is it Dunbar? There's a number of
Robin
friends.
Dunbar. Yes.
Robin Dunbar, who's like, you mentioned, like the guru or the Warren Buffett of sociology.
He is. He endorsed my book, Mike.
Is that true? Congratulations.
That cool? Yeah,
that is
so exciting.
Cool. That's like a dream come true. I was like, if Seth Godin, my marketing guru, ever joined me on this podcast, that would be like what you just had happen to you. So,
I know.
We keep begging for it, Seth. If you're watching, I keep bringing you up. I know you're a big fan of Jonathan Haidt's work too. Haidt. I think you say. Yep. Yeah, Haidt. And he's been all over the news recently because he's addressing not just some of the polarization happening in our society, but this anxious generation. Yes. And how younger people, all these things we're talking about, it seems like it's been amplified for the next generation. And again, I am all for not being biased. I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up in the 80s like you did. We have the same musical tastes. We'll talk about that in a second. But the idea that I want to understand and really put myself in the shoes of someone who grew up in a totally different time, this digital era with social media and all the pressures and all the anxiety that comes from that. I experience it, but I'm able to kind of compartmentalize it because I'm rooted in this Gen X, independent, self-esteem that was built. Does the workplace have a role to play in helping the anxious generation do better going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think workplace is so important because we're in this VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. We're overwhelmed. Things are upside down. We don't know where to turn.
VUCA? What's a VUCA?
VUCA. I know. Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous.
Oh,
if
that's
you really like, that's it. Yeah, there you go.
Be patient,
it's
DJ Mike
a VUCA
P.
world.
Let her tell the story. Okay.
If you really love acronyms, you can add MAX, which is massive, accelerating, exponential change. But the takeaway is like we're overwhelmed, right? Whether you're saying words or acronyms, we're overwhelmed. And so the workplace is actually really important. It gives us a sense of stability, a center of gravity. Like all the things are happening, but we get up in the morning and we show up at work, whether we're showing up virtually or in person, we have the things to do. There are people counting on us. That gives us a really good sense of stability. And I think the other thing that that's interesting right now is we get a sense of identity from our connections. We get a sense of identity from the value that we bring, from what people are counting on us for. And in the midst of all of the stuff with AI, right? Like AI is shifting the way that we work. It's shifting what we work on. It's shifting how much we know because there's so much ambiguity in front of us. And I think we're at this moment too where we can think about the identity from our work. Like it's really healthy that we get a sense of meaning and identity from work. We also get those things from family and friends and community.
Absolutely.
But as our work changes based on AI, we might be in a place to be thinking differently about, what's the value that I bring? How is that shifting? How is my identity shifting in terms of what people are counting on from me? So work is going to be this really important place where we have the opportunity to reinforce what we all bring and the value that we all place on each other, the value that we place on the work that we're doing. So I think those are really interesting ways to think about it. We were talking about who we follow, and Arthur Brooks is great on this topic. He endorsed my book. Amy Edmondson, Dory Clark. Like there's just lots and lots of people who have been not only endorsing, but also really inspiring how we think about work, how we think about our contributions, how we think about learning and growth over time.
It's wonderful. And I am so happy to know you and thankful that you have chosen this little podcast as a place to share some of your story and your book and your music, because I always tie it back to music. Tracy, you and I have had these conversations over the last 5 years. We've talked about Walking on Sunshine with Katrina and the Waves. We talked about Don't Stop Believin' with Journey. And I know it's relevant. We got to bring it up again. Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper. Tell me why you love that song so much in this context of building community and caring for each other.
Yeah, I think it's such it's one of my top 5 of all time. But in the song, she talks about when you're lost in your look, you'll find me, right? You're lost, yes. You're looking for stability, you're looking for connection. You'll find me. I'll be there with you. Another of my favorites is Sarah McLachlan. We've talked about her. She's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen her in concert like way more than we probably should. We're total fans. But she's got this great new song called Gravity about some challenges that she went through with her teenage daughter. She talks about this on stage. She's very open about it. But she says, you were really, really struggling and I'll carry you. I'll kind of be the gravity for you. And I think Cyndi, Sarah, in terms of those songs, we are gravity for each other. We are centering. We are kind of grounding for each other. With all the buoying and buffeting that's happening right now in our VUCA world, right? Having each other as touchstones, having each other as colleagues we can count on, having each other to give us a sense of identity and value and remind ourselves kind of who we are and what we bring. That's good stuff.
It sure is. And I can't think of Sarah McLachlan without thinking about those animal
don't go there.
Videos.
Don't go there.
I know. I was trying to be positive, but I will remember you. I hope that's not the piece that my team cuts from this episode and puts out there. It's not that, it's just a beautiful voice. It's just so emotive when she sings.
She is.
That it's really good. So I'll check out the new song. I will continue to have Cyndi Lauper on a loop because, I'm a child of the 80s as well. And I really appreciate that. We're running out of time. It always goes by so fast. Tracy, before I let you go, you're always great at this. Some practical advice, some action steps for my audience of FM and real estate leaders as we head into the future of the workplace together. What would you say here in 2026?
create places where people can connect, whether those are bigger, broader places or ancillary spots where we can just kind of grab a cup of coffee together or sit down together. Create places where people can connect, create cultures where people feel like they can choose to be together with others, connect ourselves. Like, we're better at supporting others when we feel like we've got that firm grounding ourselves. So be intentional, reach out for coffee, stay in touch, offer to be a mentor to others, ask others for mentorship. When we're kind of taking care of our own connections, we can help others connect as well, both in terms of place and in terms of process and in terms of culture and technology as well.
The new book, available for pre-order now, everybody. It's called Critical Connections: Build Relationships and Harness the Power of Community in Work and Life. Dr. Tracy Brower, thank you once again for being with me here on the Workplace Innovator podcast.
Thank you so much. So appreciate it.
And thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. It's always fun to have someone like Tracy on the show. Please check the show notes, reach out to her, tell her you heard her here. And if you enjoyed this conversation and got anything of value from it, please do me a favor, your pal, DJ Mike P., and send a comment or share this podcast episode with a colleague or a friend. Subscribe on YouTube here at the Aptura YouTube channel, and continue with me as we encourage and inspire each other on this journey to be a workplace innovator. Peace out, everybody.